The text came at 1:12 p.m. Halstead Avenue Baptist Church. 2 p.m. You need to see this. Unknown. That was it. No name. No context. No threat. Just direction. I stared at it, heart pounding in my chest like I'd swallowed a ticking clock. Outside the windshield, the rain traced thin, nervous lines down the glass. I was parked outside our dry cleaners on 7th, engine idling, a blouse of Damien's still hanging behind me in the back seat.
Chicago, he said.
Investment conference. Wednesday through Sunday. But Halstead Avenue wasn't in Chicago. It was 10 minutes from our house. I shouldn't have driven there. I shouldn't have typed the address into my GPS. I shouldn't have parked across from the beige stone church where I married him 7 years ago. But I did. Because some part of me, the part that hadn't fully exhaled in months, was already prepared for the answer. I just hadn't wanted to say it aloud. Through the rain, I saw guests gathering beneath black umbrellas. No funeral attire. No grief. Just polished suits and elegant dresses. The kind people wear to weddings. Weddings. I stared so long my fingers went numb on the steering wheel. My name is Ava Monroe. And right now, I'm sitting in my car like a woman watching her own life from the outside, the version where I finally lose everything I thought was real. The version where my husband, my careful, charismatic, perfect husband, is not 900 miles away in a Chicago hotel suite, but 50 yards across the street, standing at the altar in a tux I've never seen before. When the bells started tolling, I didn't even realize I was moving. Heels on wet pavement. Heart in my throat. Every step echoing like a warning. I slipped in through the side entrance and stood behind a stone column unnoticed. The scent of lilies and old hymn books flooded my senses, so painfully familiar it made my stomach flip. And then I saw him.
Damien.
Handsome as ever, hair slicked, jaw clenched in that small, twitchy way I'd come to recognize when he was nervous. He adjusted his cufflinks, smiled politely, nodded to someone at the front pew. Not a hint of guilt in his posture. Not a flicker of hesitation. He wasn't a man caught in betrayal. He was a groom waiting for his bride. The pianist began to play. I turned toward the aisle as the guests rose, my vision tunneling. My hands clutched the column for balance. She appeared. Tessa Blake. Long dark hair swept to the side. A veil like mist over her face. The woman who helped me plan my own wedding. Who sat beside me while I tried on dresses. Who knew my vows before I even spoke them out loud. My best friend since the 8th grade. She walked toward Damien with the grace of someone who had rehearsed this moment. Who had imagined it. Who had earned it, not stolen it. Dearly beloved. The words blurred. The walls pulsed. My throat closed. Damien reached for her hands. Tessa looked up at him, trembling with joy. They kissed before the applause started. My knees didn't give out. My heart didn't stop. Because I was too far gone for that. I walked out of the church, rain soaking through my coat, and got into my car without remembering the steps. The world outside had changed, but my engine still hummed like nothing had happened. When I got home, the first thing I noticed was how clean everything looked. Our kitchen. Our perfect, professionally remodeled kitchen. White marble. Stainless steel. Lighting he insisted on having installed. For dinners we never ate. For guests who never came. I stood in the silence, dripping onto the tile. Then my phone buzzed again.
Now you know.
What will you do? Same number. I didn't answer. I poured myself a glass of Damien Scotch, Yamazaki 18. Reserved for special occasions. He'd kill me for touching it. It burned going down. But it was real. The only thing that was. I sat at the kitchen island, watching the rain smear the world outside, and pulled out my laptop. I opened a new email. Subject: Family Reunion. Dear Vivian, I hope this finds you well. I've been thinking about organizing that family weekend you've always suggested, something long overdue. Perhaps next month? Best, Ava. Because that's the thing about betrayal, it's never just one moment. It's the scaffolding of lies that made it possible. The dinners missed. The passwords changed. The perfectly rehearsed alibis. Damien had always been an incredible liar.
But so was I.
And while they enjoyed their honeymoon, whatever tropical paradise they'd chosen for their victory lap, I'd be here, smiling, planning, watching. Because unlike love, trust is a currency. And they had given me all of theirs. The photo album from college sat on the bookshelf. I pulled it down and opened it with hands that no longer shook. Page 7. Damien, Tessa, and me. Arms looped around each other, sweaty from a summer hike. My head on his shoulder, her fingers brushing mine. We looked so happy, so young, so stupid. I closed the album and stared at the text on my screen. What will you do? I smiled, sharp and hollow. Let them think they've won. They have no idea the war has just begun. Before we continue, take a moment to let me know where you're watching from the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to more powerful stories like this one. The door opened at 6:41 p.m., 3 days after the wedding. 3 days after I watched my husband marry my best friend. 3 days of silence, on my part at least. Damien walked into our kitchen like he always did, sleeves rolled up, briefcase in his right hand, Bluetooth earpiece tucked into his collar. He dropped his keys into the bowl by the door. Same routine, same rhythm, as if he hadn't committed spiritual arson 48 hours ago. Hey babe, he said, glancing over. Smells amazing. I was at the stove, stirring the risotto. Porcini mushroom, his favorite. I thought we could do a real dinner tonight, I replied smoothly. No takeout. No leftovers. He came up behind me and kissed my cheek. My skin crawled, but I didn't flinch. That's really thoughtful of you. I plated the food, every motion precise, controlled. I even lit the tapered candles on the table, the ones we hadn't used since our 3rd anniversary. He raised an eyebrow. What's the occasion? Does there need to be one? Damien gave a short laugh and pulled out his chair.
Touché.
We ate mostly in silence. I let him lead with small talk. How the market was volatile, how traffic was murder, how his secretary Marla might finally quit. I waited, and when the silence stretched just long enough, I dropped the bait. Did Tessa call this week? He froze for a fraction of a second. Then he chewed, swallowed.
Sipped his wine.
Not since last month, I think.
Liar.
She always disappears when she's seeing someone new, I said, pretending to scroll on my phone. Last I heard, she was dating that guy from her yoga class. What was his name? I have no idea.
Right.
You two don't really talk much, do you? He looked at me now, carefully. Why are you asking about Tessa? I met his eyes. Just making conversation. He smiled, but his jaw twitched.
Tell.
Damien only clenched his jaw like that when he was lying or calculating. He set down his fork. You've been quiet lately. I've had a lot on my mind. About what? I gave a light shrug. About us. About the future. You know, life. That sounds ominous. No, I said, standing to clear the plates. It sounds like perspective. I moved to the sink, letting the water run too long, watching the steam curl. Speaking of the future, I said over my shoulder, your mom called. She wants us to host the family reunion this year. She said she's been asking for years.
Damien sighed.
Of course she did. Don't worry, I said, turning off the tap. I already told her yes. He blinked. You did. I thought you'd be excited. I dried my hands slowly. You know how much you love entertaining. He smiled again, but this time it was tighter. That was the second crack. He never turned down a chance to play the perfect husband, especially in front of his mother. Unless, of course, he had something or someone to hide. The rest of the evening passed in carefully rehearsed normalcy. We watched half an episode of Something Forgettable before he remembered a last-minute conference call. I kissed him goodnight like nothing had changed. And then I lay awake until 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me like the hands of a clock I could never stop. At 2:14, I rose and went to his office. I had already changed his passwords. All of them. 2 days ago. Our anniversary, his go-to security blanket, wasn't so romantic anymore. His laptop lit up. Inbox, 1,425 unread emails. He always said he hated clutter. I sorted by flagged. There it was. A folder titled Nantucket, finalized. Inside, travel confirmations. A rental car reservation. One-way flight details. 4-2. Mr. Damien Carter. Ms. Tessa Blake. Departing in 6 days. To a villa registered under an alias I didn't recognize, A. Thorne. But the billing address matched Damien's company card.
Sloppy.
I printed everything. Then I opened the closet and retrieved the shoebox beneath the false bottom. Inside was the manila envelope I hadn't touched in years. Back when I was young enough to believe that love was enough to protect you. The one that held our prenuptial agreement. And more importantly, the power of attorney. Signed last year. By Damien. Notarized. Because he was too busy to sit through the estate planning meeting and trusted me to handle the boring stuff. He never read what he signed. Most men, like him, never do. I ran my fingers across the edge of the document and smiled. Not because it felt good, but because it felt fair. The next morning, I texted my brother Jonas. Need your help. No questions yet. Just breakfast. Usual spot. Jonas replied in under a minute. 7 a.m. I'll bring the appetite. You bring the truth. I arrived first. Jonas was never late, but I always made a point to get there before him. It gave me time to collect myself. 2 sugars in my coffee, 1 deep breath every 10 seconds, and a booth that faced the door. The Red Fern Cafe had been our neutral ground for years. Somewhere between home and honesty. Cheap eggs, good lighting, and a kind of anonymity that didn't ask questions. At 7:04, Jonas walked in. Dark gray coat. Scruffy beard. The kind of man who looked like he either just left a courtroom or just dug a grave. Sometimes both. He slid into the booth across from me without a word and placed his phone face down on the table. His eyes skimmed my face like a scanner looking for damage. You're not wearing your ring. I didn't answer. He nodded once. Okay. We ordered black coffee for him, more coffee for me, eggs over medium for both. Then I opened the envelope and slid it across the table. Tell me what you see. He pulled out the documents and frowned. Pages of travel receipts, emails between Damien and a private event planner, and a signed rental contract under the name A. Thorne. He paused when he reached the final page. The prenup. The power of attorney. Tell me this is a copy, he said. No, I said. He signed it during estate planning. Last year. I had it notarized. He looked at me for a long moment, then backed down. This gives you full access, he murmured. You could clean out the accounts, transfer assets, even freeze joint holdings if you wanted to. I know. And he doesn't. He hasn't remembered signing it. He never read the details. Just wanted to get it done fast. Jonas exhaled and leaned back. And Tessa? They got married. I saw it. His eyebrows shot up. Legally? Don't know yet. But I was at the church. I saw them exchange vows.
He was quiet for a long time.
Just ran his fingers along the edge of the paper as the waitress refilled our mugs. You want to destroy them, he said flatly. I didn't correct him. What's your endgame? I don't know yet. Justice or revenge? I looked at him. What's the difference? Jonas didn't smile. He didn't flinch. Just looked down at the document in his hands like it had just started burning. They're heading to Nantucket in 6 days, I said. Some beachfront hideaway booked under a fake name. I want to know who else is involved. How deep this goes. How long it's been going on. And you want to keep it quiet, he said. No police. No lawyers. No confrontation yet. Not until I have leverage. He nodded. You have access to Damien's corporate accounts? Everything. I need you to show me what to look for. You think this goes beyond an affair? I know it does. He tapped the prenuptial agreement. You've got his attention the moment you use this. Which is why I won't use it yet. Our food arrived. Neither of us touched it. I pushed a second envelope toward him, this one thinner. Inside were 3 old photographs. One of Damien and me. One of Tessa and me. And one of all 3 of us, taken at a cabin retreat upstate during our last year of college. Jonas stared at the third one. You want me to understand how personal this is, he said. I want you to remember what kind of liar Damien is. You never needed my help to figure that out. No, I said. But I need your help to prove it. Jonas rubbed his temples. This kind of thing, it doesn't end with one confrontation. It gets messy, ugly. If Damien's mother is involved,
She will be.
trust me.
He paused.
Vivian Carter's the reason Damien never gets audited. She's protected him since law school. You're not just going after a husband and a mistress. You're going after a family brand. I know. Okay, he said finally. Then we do this surgically. He pulled out a small black notebook from his coat and flipped to a clean page. We start with money. Follow the financials, not the emotions. Emotions lie. Bank records don't. He began writing. We'll need copies of Damien's account statements. Corporate and personal. Transaction history, travel expenses, trust movement. Anything that looks off. I already pulled the last 6 months. Printed and on a flash drive. Good. Then we trace the name A. Thorne. Check aliases, shell companies, real estate links. I leaned in. And then we look for the weak link. I paused. What do you mean? One of them is more reckless than the other. One of them leaves the trail. If we find the crack, we don't kick in the door. We widen the crack until everything collapses. He looked up at me now, eyes sharp and serious. Are you sure you're ready for that? I thought of Tessa in that dress. Her hand in Damien's. Her voice saying I do like it had never belonged to someone else first.
Yes, I said.
I'm ready. Jonas snapped his notebook shut and stood. Then let's break them quietly. It was Jonas who found it. 3 nights after our breakfast, we sat side by side in my home office, surrounded by LED screens and manila folders. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours total.
Neither had he.
You see this, he said, pointing to the spreadsheet on his laptop. Looks like a normal transfer. It would be if this company actually existed. I leaned in. The line item read, Thorne Management Services, LLC, $85,000 wire transfer. Memo. Consulting, Q3 planning / authorized by V. Carter.
Vivian.
Damien's mother. That's not a consulting fee, Jonas muttered. That's hush money. Or seed money. Depends on what they're building. He clicked another tab. The LLC was registered in Delaware 6 months ago. Anonymous shell. But the IP address used to create the digital banking login? Traced back to a country club in Westport. He turned to me. The same one Vivian sits on the board of. I didn't blink. So Vivian's funding them, I said. Not just protecting Damien. She's actively helping him. Jonas nodded. Looks that way. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen as the pieces began to slide into place like ice shifting beneath your feet. 6 months ago, Damien started working late more often. 5 months ago, Tessa ghosted me for 6 straight weeks and then reappeared with a vague apology and a new necklace she claimed she bought for herself. 4 months ago, Vivian invited us to brunch for the first time in years. Said she missed her girl. It wasn't nostalgia. It was surveillance. She's the one who gave them cover, I whispered. She helped them hide the affair. She helped them hide the money, Jonas corrected. Which means this isn't just infidelity. This is conspiracy. He opened another file and pushed it toward me. It gets worse. The document was a trust summary. 2 names, Damien Carter and Tessa Blake, listed as co-trustees for an account containing over $2.3 million. I didn't speak. Registered to a property address in Charleston, Jonas added. They've been moving assets. Quietly. Cleanly. Over time. I felt something shift in my chest, rage, but deeper. Quieter. Like magma. Vivian set this up? Not directly, Jonas said. But this document was notarized by her personal attorney. 2 weeks ago. That was after the wedding. After I saw them at the altar. After Damien came home and kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. She knew, I said flatly. She's been preparing, Jonas said. And she's doing it under the assumption you'll fold. I looked at him. I don't fold. Jonas nodded once. Then it's time we let her know that. The Carter Family Foundation Gala was invitation only. Held at the Astor Conservatory every year. Strict dress code. No press allowed inside. Just a string quartet, $600 centerpieces, and very expensive lies. Vivian didn't know I'd be there. Until I walked in wearing black satin and her dead sister's emerald earrings. An inheritance Damien had once told me she'd never forgive me for receiving. Let her stew. I saw her near the marble staircase, surrounded by board members and half the city's elite. Champagne flute in hand. Elegant. Powerful. Untouchable. She spotted me mid-sentence. Her smile faltered. Then she glided toward me with a speed that didn't match her heels. "Ava," she said smoothly, voice low and controlled. "How lovely to see you here." I returned the smile. Didn't want to miss it. You always do know how to put on a show. Vivian's eyes sharpened. "I thought you were in Napa this week," she said. I was. But I came back early. I sipped my drink. Felt like I needed to see a few things with my own eyes. She stepped closer. "Are we speaking plainly, or are we still pretending this is polite society?" "That depends," I said, pulling a small flash drive from my clutch. "Do you want to have this conversation here, or in front of the donor wall under your late husband's name?" Her eyes flicked to the drive. "What is that?" "A copy of the trust account document. A few flagged transactions. And a fun little memo signed by you." Her jaw locked. "What do you want?" "Nothing tonight," I said. "Just wanted you to see my face. And to know that I'm not asleep." I stepped in even closer. "But if you ever move one more dollar into that account under Damien or Tessa's name, if you so much as blink in the direction of my financial future, I will take everything. Piece by piece. Publicly." Vivian's smile returned. Cold. Cautious. "You've always had a flair for dramatics, Ava." "No," I said softly. "I've had a flair for survival. You just never saw it." And then I walked away. Back into the ballroom. Into the swirl of chandeliers and wine and whispered speculation. Vivian didn't follow. She wouldn't. Because the real power in a war like this is knowing that your enemy has no idea how many moves you've already made. I sent Jonas a single text from the valet stand. Vivian blinked. He replied seconds later. "Then we keep going. Next move. Tessa." The last time Tessa and I sat in the Crestview Cafe, we were planning my bridal shower. She wanted peonies in my hair. I wanted wine that wasn't from a box. We compromised with a vineyard brunch and a playlist we spent hours laughing over. That was 8 years ago. Now the cafe felt smaller. Maybe it was the weight of what I knew. Or maybe betrayal just takes up more space than joy ever did. I chose the table in the back, the one we used to claim during finals week, with scratch marks still carved into the wood from someone's pocket knife. Tessa walked in 5 minutes late. She was always 5 minutes late. Still flawless, though. Hair tied back in a low bun, face fresh, minimal makeup. The kind of casual elegance that was designed to disarm. She spotted me and hesitated. Then she crossed the room and sat down. "I wasn't sure you'd actually come," she said. "Then why did you say yes?" Her smile flickered. "Because I owe you that much." I didn't respond. Just looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. Because I was. She glanced at the empty seat across from me, as if expecting a trap door to open. "I didn't plan for it to happen this way," she said. "There's never a good way to marry your best friend's husband." Tessa winced. "It's not what you think." I opened my purse and pulled out the folder. It was thinner than the ones I'd given Jonas or Vivian. Just enough. I slid it across the table. She didn't reach for it. "What is that?" "Proof." "Of." "Everything." She didn't touch it, but I saw her eyes dart to the corner of the folder. Saw her fingers twitch. She was unraveling. Slowly. The trust fund. The fake LLC. The beach house in Charleston. I listed them like ingredients in a poison recipe. "You're not just the other woman. You're an accomplice." She finally touched the folder. Flipped the top page. Paused. Then turned another. And another. With each sheet, Her posture sank. "That's not possible," she whispered. "Vivian's signature is on the transaction," I said. "You signed as co-trustee. Damien is the beneficiary. The company was created using her country club's IP address. And the notary? Her personal attorney." Tessa swallowed hard. "He said it was just temporary. A placeholder. That it wasn't really mine." I stared at her. "He married you." Tessa looked up sharply. He said it was to secure the Carter estate. That his lawyers needed proof he'd moved on for the inheritance clauses to reset." "Inheritance." She nodded. "From his grandfather. Some complicated generational clause." My voice was flat. "And you thought that made it okay?" Tessa's eyes filled with tears. I thought he loved me." "And what did you think I was? A training dummy?" Her lips parted.
Closed.
"It was never about hurting you. That's the thing," I said, leaning forward. "It never is."
But you did.
"You did hurt me. You stole from me. You watched me smile and cry and confide in you while building a second life with my husband behind my back. I didn't mean for it to happen like that. But you let it happen." The silence stretched between us like an open wound. I picked up my coffee, took a sip. Bitter.
Perfect.
Tessa finally spoke. "What do you want from me?" I set the cup down slowly. "Truth." "About what?" "About who Damien really is. Because I think you know more than you've said. I think you've seen things, heard things, that you've excused to keep the illusion alive. But if you're going to keep pretending, then I'll go to the press with this." I gestured to the folder. Tessa flinched. "You wouldn't. You want to bet your last name on that?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Then, there's one thing." I waited. "He's been talking to someone named Archer. I don't know his last name, but it's shady. Offshore accounts, encrypted emails, burner phones." "When?" "Since the spring." "And Vivian?" "She knows. I heard her tell Damien to move the rest of it before Q4. I thought it was about property. Now, I'm not so sure." I nodded slowly. This was the crack Jonas talked about. And it wasn't just about infidelity. It was about fraud. "Can you prove any of this?" Tessa's hand moved to her purse. She pulled out a flash drive. "He made me skin documents for him. Said I was helping him organize the family's legacy. But some of it, I don't think he ever intended for anyone to see." I took the flash drive, careful not to look too relieved. "Why now?" I asked. "Why give this to me?" She blinked, a tear finally falling. "Because he proposed again last night." My stomach twisted. "After everything?" "He handed me a new ring. Said we should go public. That he wanted to start a family. And that's when you realized." "That he doesn't love anyone but himself," she said quietly. "And if I said no, he'd make me disappear financially. Just like he's done before. I'm not as naive as you think, Ava. I'm just slower." I stood. She did too. "This doesn't make us even," I said. "I know, but it might make us useful." She nodded. "I'll be in touch," I added. "But if you warn him, if you so much as hint at what we're doing, everything goes public. And you'll be the face of it."
She didn't argue.
As I walked out of the cafe, I glanced back once, just once, to see her standing there, holding the empty coffee cup like it might explain how everything fell apart. She had chosen Damien. Now she was choosing survival. And me? I was choosing the endgame. The flash drive was black, unmarked, and smaller than my thumb. Somehow that made it worse. Like the truth it carried had to be compressed to fit inside something so cold and quiet. Jonas plugged it into his encrypted laptop. We were back at my house, every blind drawn, phones powered off, door double-locked. You don't treat something like this casually. Not when your enemies wear suits and sign bank documents with pens that cost more than your car. The files loaded slowly. "Encrypted," Jonas murmured. "But only surface level." "You can break it?" He gave a dry smile. "I'm already in." There were 62 files total. Mostly PDFs. A few spreadsheets. One folder labeled Archer in all caps. Jonas clicked it first. Inside were 6 documents, contracts, money transfers, and a single scan passport. He opened the last one. Archer Kane, British national, private equity consultant, ties to 3 different offshore trusts in the Cayman Islands and Luxembourg. No photos, just a name, a number, and a signature that matched one of the documents we pulled from Damien's fake LLC. I leaned forward. Is this who Damien's laundering money through? Jonas clicked open the spreadsheets. More than that, he's not just moving Damien's money. He's been coordinating investments under Damien's name, shadow partnerships through fake firms, real estate, crypto, foreign ventures, all in places with zero regulation. Jonas paused. And at least one account registered to your name. My stomach dropped. Mine. He nodded. Look. He pulled up a scanned document. A joint venture. Signed by Damien. Co-signed with someone labeled A. Monroe. I never signed that.
No.
But he forged it. Used your maiden name. You were part of this, Ava, on paper. Which means if this explodes and you don't get ahead of it, you go down with him. I stood, heart hammering. How much are we talking? Jonas clicked through the balances. Over $9.80 million spread across 4 countries. None of it declared. And based on the routing patterns, he's been doing this for at least 4 years. I backed away from the screen like it might catch fire. This isn't just a scheme, I whispered. It's an empire. Jonas nodded grimly. And Vivian knows. She signed 2 of the original fund transfers. She's not just complicit. She's a co-architect. And Tessa? Probably a pawn. But now she's holding the key to the whole thing. I felt the panic rise before I could stop it. What happens if Damien finds out she gave it to us? She's in danger, Jonas said flatly. And so are you. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it all pressing in. Then Jonas opened a final file. A scanned letter, different from the others. Older, yellowed with digital noise like it had been copied too many times. It was addressed to Vivian Carter, written in ink. Dated 2011. Vivian, I won't be part of this. Not after what you did to Michael. I protected you once. That's all you get. If Damien ever finds out who his real father is, it will destroy him. My vision blurred. Michael, I whispered. As in? Jonas was already searching. Damien's uncle. Died in a car accident when Damien was 17. Official story. But there were rumors that he took his own life after some kind of family scandal. He turned to me. Vivian lied about more than money. I sank into the chair, throat dry. She manipulated Damien's entire identity, I said. Jonas nodded. And if he finds out, he'll implode. Or explode. Maybe both. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch, wine in hand, replaying every moment I'd ever had with Damien. Every touch. Every lie. Every time he made me feel like I was the one losing control. He'd been building this web around me for years. Slowly.
Carefully.
Pulling me in with love and humor and promises. Until I wasn't a partner. I was a prop. An alibi. A signature on a dotted line I never saw. I checked the clock. 2:47 a.m. Then I picked up the burner phone Jonas gave me. Typed a message to Tessa. He forged my name. You're in deeper than you thought. We meet tomorrow. No excuses. Crestview. Noon. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, Jonas called just as I was buttoning my coat. Bad news, he said. What now? The flash drive had a tracker embedded in its metadata. I froze. So he knows. Not yet. But the drive pinged a signal last night. One that was probably sent to Archer's private server. Meaning Damien and Vivian will know someone accessed their files. They just won't know who yet. I breathed in through my nose. We move fast. Faster, Jonas said. Because this isn't about broken hearts anymore, Ava. I already knew that. This was war. And war demands a reckoning. The coffee shop on Glenmere looked like a place where nothing dangerous could ever happen. Sunlight spilled through wide windows. A college kid strummed a guitar in the corner. Someone's baby giggled as a foam heart floated in her mother's latte. But I was already planning how to destroy a man. Tessa sat across from me. She looked tired. Not mascara smudged tired, but the kind of exhaustion that comes from realizing the person you loved never really existed. He called last night, she said quietly. Damien? She nodded, asked if I'd seen the flash drive. He said one of the family accounts had a breach. And you? I played dumb. Good. We both knew we didn't have much time. Jonas had called that morning. The Archer signal had pinged again. The data breach hadn't gone unnoticed. The clock was ticking. He's suspicious, Tessa said, but not certain, which means he's waiting for me to slip. He won't, I replied, because we're not slipping. She looked at me. You really think we can pull this off? We don't have a choice. She leaned in, her voice low. Then we do it tonight. I met her eyes. Explain. Damien thinks I want to celebrate. Said he made us dinner reservations. Told me to wear red. How romantic. She didn't smile. He'll be distracted. Playing the part. If we record the conversation, get him talking about Archer, the accounts, the forged signatures, it's enough to go to the feds. And you think he'll just hand that over on a silver platter? No, she said. But he talks when he's in control. When he thinks he's winning. Then we give him what he wants, I said slowly. We make him feel untouchable. She nodded. And then we make sure he never is again. By 5 p.m., everything was in motion. Jonas arranged the tech, a micro-recorder small enough to fit in Tessa's earring backing, paired to a signal booster sewn into the lining of her clutch. It would stream audio in real time to Jonas's laptop, parked in a rental car across the street from the restaurant. He handed me a second phone. One tap sends a feed directly to my offsite backup. Another copies it to a secure folder. If anything goes wrong, anything, you hit send. I nodded. And Ava, he added quietly. Yeah. If Damien gets wise, if he even suspects what you two are doing, he won't just try to ruin you. He'll erase you. I know. He exhaled. Don't flinch. I don't plan to. Tessa arrived at the restaurant at 7:58. Right on time. She wore red. Not the flashy kind, but a deep wine-colored silk that clung to her like a dare. Her hair was up. Her expression unreadable. Damien stood when she entered. He kissed her cheek, guided her to the table, took her hand in his like he hadn't just tried to turn her into collateral. Jonas and I sat in the car a block away, windows cracked, audio feed crisp in our ears. You look beautiful tonight, Damien said. Do I? Dangerously. She laughed softly. Is that a threat? Never, he replied. You're the safest thing in my life. I rolled my eyes. Jonas just pressed a key, marking the timestamp. They ordered wine.
Food.
He toasted to new beginnings. Then the real conversation started. You were quiet last night, he said. I was just thinking, Tessa replied, about everything we're building. Building. She tilted her head. The accounts.
The trust.
The inheritance. You said it was finally all coming together. It is. So tell me how it works. I want to understand. Damien chuckled. That's not very romantic dinner talk. Humor me. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. Okay, there's Archer. He's our broker. Private placement. Completely offshore. The company names are noise. They exist to hold weight, not meaning. If we get audited, nothing leads back to us. Us.
You. Me.
My mother. And Ava? He paused. She's covered. Covered how? Another pause. I used her signature on a dummy account, he said casually. It won't hold. Once the merger's finalized, it dissolves. She walks away with a stipend and an NDA. I inhaled sharply. My hands curled into fists. Does she know that?
Tessa asked.
She doesn't need to. Legally, she's already out. She just doesn't know it yet. Jonas slammed a marker key. Got it. But it wasn't over. What about the inheritance? Tessa asked. Damien laughed. The trust matures in December. My grandfather's clause says I had to be legitimately remarried for a minimum of 60 days. which means the clock is ticking. After that, we move everything. Everything. He leaned closer to her mic, the accounts, the properties, the shares my mother's been shielding since the 90s. Tessa was quiet for a moment. Then, and what happens to Ava? Damien's answer was so soft, we almost didn't catch it. She disappears. Back in the car, the silence was deafening. Jonas slowly removed the earbuds. She disappears. My hands were ice cold. It wasn't metaphor anymore. It was intent. Do we have enough? I asked. He turned to me. We have enough to bury him. And just like that, the trap was set. We didn't have to wait for December. We didn't have to wait for Damien to pull the trigger. Because we already had the bullet. And by morning, we were going to fire it. The table was set for 6. White linen. Crystal glasses. Candlelight flickering across polished silver. The dining room of the Carter estate looked like a magazine spread. As if no amount of corruption could stain marble floors and imported chandeliers. Vivian sat at the head of the table, expression calm, elegant. Damien was to her left, wine swirling in his glass, lips curled in that self-satisfied smirk I'd memorized and now despised. Tessa sat beside him, dressed in soft gray, silent. Jonas stood behind me as I entered, laptop case slung over one shoulder. His suit was dark, his silence louder. We hadn't told anyone why we were calling this dinner, just that they needed to be here. Vivian rose when I entered.
Ava.
You look lovely. Save it. Damien raised a brow. This is a bit dramatic even for you. Is it? I pulled out a chair and sat, placing a manila envelope in front of me. Jonas sat beside me. No plates. Damien asked. No roast lamb. Tessa didn't look at him. This isn't dinner, I said. This is a reading. Vivian's smile thinned. Of what? Your eulogy. Damien laughed. Okay, let's hear it. Jonas opened the laptop and pressed play. From the speakers came Damien's voice.
Clear.
Crisp. Unedited. I used her signature on a dummy account. It won't hold. Once the merger's finalized, it dissolves. She walks away with a stipend and an NDA. Vivian's fingers tightened around her glass. Does she know that? She doesn't need to. Legally, she's already out. She just doesn't know it yet. Damien froze. I watched him realize. Tessa's eyes were closed now, as if bracing for impact. Vivian reached for the laptop, but Jonas slid it away. We made copies, he said calmly. So many copies. I leaned forward. You forged my name. You laundered millions. You lied to my face for 3 years. And you were going to erase me. Your exact words. I was protecting you, Damien said instantly. No, I said. You were packaging me. For silence. For surrender. Vivian composed herself. This is all very dramatic, but… The FBI has everything, I said. They know about Archer. About the shell companies. About the forged documents. Jonas slid a printed form across the table. There's a subpoena for your offshore holdings, Vivian. You'll see the agents outside before dessert. Damien stood. You're bluffing. You should sit, Jonas said, before you make this worse. Damien didn't sit.
So, I did it for him.
I filed for divorce this morning, I said. Everything's frozen. The estate. The accounts. The trust. You're locked out of it all. Vivian's eyes went wide. You don't have the authority. I do, I said. Because your son gave me power of attorney last year. He never read it. Remember? Tessa finally spoke. She has full control. Damien turned to her. You little. No, I snapped. You don't get to call her anything. She played your game, but now she's choosing ours. He sneered. This is a war. No, I said. This was a war. It's over. We heard it then. The sound of doors opening. Voices in the hallway. Federal agents. 2 walked in, badges out. 1 turned to Vivian. Mrs. Carter, we have a warrant. Vivian stood, spine straight. I'll call my lawyer. You should. They let her out. Damien tried to follow.
Wait, I said.
He turned. I held out the wedding ring I'd taken off 8 days ago. You gave this to me under false pretenses, I said. But I wore it in good faith. Now it's evidence. He stared at me. I smiled. You should have read what you signed. They took him next. He didn't say a word. Later that night, Jonas and I stood on the Carter balcony, watching the last of the squad cars pull away. You okay? He asked. No, I said. But I will be. Behind us, Tessa was packing her things. She wouldn't stay. Not in this house. Not in this city. But we didn't part with bitterness. I'll testify, she'd told the agents. I'll say everything. I believed her. Not because I trusted her, but because we were both tired of being footnotes in Damien Carter's story. Now we were writing our own. 3 months later, the trial began. Damien and Vivian were charged with federal fraud, forgery, conspiracy to launder money, and attempted misappropriation of marital assets. The headlines used words like web of deceit and dynasty dismantled, but none of it captured what mattered most. I was free. My name cleared. My accounts restored. My silence shattered. I didn't rebuild in the old house. I moved. I painted. I traveled. And I never flinched again when my phone buzzed. Because now I knew. Sometimes justice wears heels and a silk blouse. Sometimes revenge is quiet, clean, and absolutely legal. And sometimes the best way to win is to make sure they never even knew you were playing. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Ava's place? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories where karma comes wrapped in calm smiles and legal paperwork. Until next time, justice served.